Good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in to today's event, DTF Printing 101. And what an absolute pleasure it is to be here demonstrating this revolutionary new printing technology to you today. Before we get started, I would just like to say thank you to every one of our valued customers who makes GJS who we are today. Over the years, we've met so many people at the events that we do, the roadshows, the installations, the training sessions, and it is fabulous to get to meet everybody and see what you do with our print technologies. So we want today's event to be as interactive as possible. So there is a Q&A section that we really do want you to send through the questions. If we're going to answer those questions in a few moments time, we'll do so at that point. If it's poignant at that time, we'll answer it there and then. So why don't you get familiar now with the Q&A section, send through a little note to let us know where you're from, and we will be sending out an email in the conclusion of this event with a video to watch back so you can recap on anything we go through today. Now, I'm here today with my colleague Ian Stone. Now, Ian's got a wealth of knowledge in the print industry. He's been here at GJS 30 years in November. He's been here longer than I've been alive. And what Ian doesn't know about digital printing is not worth knowing.
Thanks, Steve. Now, for all of our existing customers out there, I'm sure you know that GJS value their support more than anything else. We're not box shifters. We actually look after our customers. If you succeed, we succeed. Steve's the leader of our support team, a very esteemed leader of our support team. We have support crew all up and down the eastern seaboard. So I'm sure you've already, if you haven't seen his face on videos, you would have talked to him over the phone, recognising that voice instantly. So today, as Steve said, thanks very much for joining us. We do really appreciate having you here. We are going to show you a revolutionary new style of print. Okay, now what we're going to run through today as an agenda, we're going to start off with what is DTF. Yep. We're going to go through also and how we got to this point with print with DTF. We're going to do a comparison between the different print options. So, for example, DTG, HTV and laser compared to the new DTF product. We're going to talk to you about how GJS DTF actually works and how it's the best system that you can use in the DTF range. We're going to talk about what we can create across the board, a lot of different products. We're going to show you some really cool stuff today on that. We're also going to go through all the tips and tricks. So tell you how to get the best results on your products as well. And of course, a lot of live demos leading into the later parts where you'll actually see the images printed down and heat applied to the products as well, Steve. Now, before we get started, just want to point out a few things. So did you know that the garment printing industry in the USA is valued at $44 billion? That's $44 billion with a B. All right, it's not so big in Australia, it's $6 billion, but it's still huge. All right, so if you could manage to corner yourself around about 0.002% of that market, you're looking at over $100,000, which is, I'd love $100,000 in my business, that's for sure. So it's that small amount of the market is all we need.
Yeah, that's some massive numbers.
Exactly, and all we really need is 9 shirts a day sold at $30 per shirt, and that's what you'd be looking at, that type of market share.
9 shirts a day is not a great deal, is it?
Easily done, Steve. Easily done. I wish that's all I had to do a day was print 9 shirts. That'd be a great business, I tell you. That's for sure.
Why don't you tell us about how we got to where we are today, Ian?
Okay, it has taken a few years, as you might have noticed yourselves out in the marketplace. Around about in 2019, we started to see the DTF process come in through the social medias, showing us how it worked and that people were actually starting to use it. So we decided to keep an eye on it, just to see how good it would be for our customers, for you out there. Now, through 2019 and 2020, we kept our eye on it and saw that it started to improve and that it would be perfect for our customers to utilise. So in 2021, we started to get in a lot of different types of medias and powders. As you may have noticed on the market now, there's a lot of different types. So we basically got them all in, dozens of them, to test them. And Steve worked through multiple long hours to find the best product for you. So after that 8 months or so of testing, we found the best product, which we now offer, and we released that in 2022, and hence us here today to show you even more about the products.
Yeah. So I think before we get talking about what is DTF, I think we need to explain about how our solution works specifically with DTG printers?
Exactly, Steve. So we base our DTF system. You may have seen other DTF systems online that don't use DTG printers. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We base ours in the DTG world. So just so you know what a DTG printer is, a direct-to-garment printer, it's a system where we need to print directly to the garment itself. All right, so we need to apply a pre-treatment to the shirt. The pre-treatment is a liquid. All right, we put that liquid down onto the shirt. Once it's on, we heat press it to remove the liquid and leave the solids behind in the shirt itself. Okay, once we've done that, we then place it onto the printer, the shirt itself. The shirt goes in, the wet ink is printed to the shirt itself. Once that image has finished printing, we take it out and we put it onto a heat press. The wet ink is then pressed under the heat press to cure it, dry it out and set it to the shirt so it's there permanently. All right, so that's the standard DTG process. The way DTF works slightly differently. Instead of actually loading a shirt onto the machine itself, we use a film. So we put the film onto the platen. It goes in, prints down the ink onto the film, and then we apply a powder. The powder sticks to the wet ink.
Yeah.
Okay, only where there is ink applied to the film, nowhere else. And then we cure the ink and set the powder to the ink as well. And then we heat press that as a transfer onto the products themselves. So it's very similar to DTG. The only difference is we're using the same machines and the same inks. We specialise in certain DTG printers because they are developed to be DTG printers. All right, as I mentioned earlier, you might have seen it come onto the market via the internet and saw different types of printers being used. So basically sideways engineered photo printers or paper printers that they put a bulk ink system on and try to run the garment ink through those machines. All right, those machines aren't made for that. We actually got one in ourselves here to test, Steve, to see how that would work. And after a short time, they fail because they're not made to take that style of ink. That's why we base ourselves with the DTG printers that are developed from the ground up to be DTG printers. So after knowing that, and that we can print onto the film and then use as a transfer onto products, what else can we create, Steve?
Well, if we think about what you can create with DTG, it's natural fibers, so basically a cotton printer. What DTF does, it allows us to print onto any type of material as long as it's not going to melt in the heat press, which opens up the range of types of garments you can print onto. So one of the massive things that DTG can't do is print it onto polyester. So it opens up the whole range of printing onto polyester.
Exactly.
So things like polyester workwear, high-vis workwear is now capable of being produced using a DTG printer via the DTF process.
Products that we definitely couldn't produce before, Steve. So we can work across into that workwear market now with a DTG printer.
Yeah, for sure. So, and you can also print onto cotton like you can do with DTG. So let's have a quick look at this one. So with DTG, you can print onto this. However, for different coloured garments, you need to mix your pre-treatment to different ratios. This is going to eliminate having to have a different mixtures of pre-treatment by using a DTF process straight onto the cotton.
Exactly, Steve. So it makes it a lot easier, mate. Fantastic.
Now,
one of your favourite
products? Hoodies. So hoodies are traditionally very difficult to produce with DTG. Do you tell us why that is, Ian?
Yeah, well, it does take a lot more effort to actually produce a hoodie using DTG. As those of you who already have DTG printers would know, you've got to spend a lot more time on the hoodie itself to make sure it's perfect to print to via pre-treatment, using pre-treatment and correct levels. So it's a very open knit and open fibre. So the wet ink seeps down into the shirt itself, which makes it more difficult. With DTF, because it actually sits on top of the product, we can do a lot better prints onto hoodies and a lot easier. For those of you who do already do DTG, you'd understand that and you'll know how good that this is going to be for you as well. And you see the results that we get on. It's just, they are just fantastic.
This is a high-vis polyester hoodie as well, not just standard hoodie.
Yeah, that's exactly right, for workwear as well. So Mr. Super Plumbing is going to be very happy.
He sure is.
Product, that's for sure.
Now, a massive advantage or benefit of DTF is the stretchability of the print. Let's just take a look at this beanie that we printed. Look, even stretches around my fat head.
Steve's big melon, look at that. With the print still on it. It looks perfect. Looks great, mate.
And we can print onto things like activewear.
Steve had these on yesterday at the gym.
Don't worry,
right? He did wash them, so they are all right. But you'll see how much these can stretch naturally with the product themselves, and still go back to absolutely normal.
Back to the original shape.
Yeah, try doing that with other print methods.
Yeah, no other print technology can achieve something like that. And it's also great for printing on those hard to reach areas with DTG. So printing onto something like this neck label we have here, it technically is achievable with DTG. It's just difficult to do because you need to pre-treat that area, isolate the area where you've got all the seams. DTF, really quick and simple to do that process. And even things like shoes as well.
It's one of my favourites, Steve.
This is your shoe, isn't it?
It is my word. I wore this skating yesterday.
So that again, technically it is possible with DTG, but is difficult on those hard to print areas.
And DTF makes it a lot easier. We're going to show you how. So also things like bags as well. I know the non-woven bag market out there is very big. So easily produced and then pressed onto things like non-woven bags as well, which is a really big market. So it's only really restricted to what you can think of to press onto. Okay, any type of product. If you would like to try and decorate it, go for it. As long, like Steve said, as long as it can handle the heat that is needed to apply the DTF to the product, test that first, and if it can handle it, you'll be able to put DTF on it. Obviously not things like silicon because they're made for nothing to stick to. Okay, and rain jackets and things like that. But anything else you'd like to have a go at that you currently decorate with other methods, try DTF on it. I guarantee it'll work beautifully for you. So now we're going to go through some comparisons, Steve, in the different print options.
We sure are.
All right.
So we spoke about DTG. How does DTF differ compared to DTG?
Okay. There are some differences. It is better than DTG in certain areas. We're going to tell you where those areas are. We're still going to need DTG, don't get me wrong, for certain things as well, but DTF does outweigh it in certain areas. So these areas are, first up, pre-treatment. So anyone doing DTG printing at the moment, you know what pre-treatment is. You know that it's a time-consuming lead-up step that is required for DTG. DTF, we don't need to pre-treat. Okay, that's going to save you in a few different areas. First of all, it's going to save you on money because pre-treatment costs. It costs you money. Say about 80 cents in total for a full frontal coverage on a shirt. We're not having to pre-treat these garments now with DTF, so you're saving that money straight away. Second thing is time. Okay, that process is also time consuming. If you're doing it especially by hand, it does take a bit of time to produce, and then we need to heat press it as well for either 45 seconds or a minute, for example. So you're saving all that time too, time's money as well. And it's also reducing that mark that we get on the shirt from pre-treatment as well. Okay, so it's only a slight mark that we get on the shirt from it, but it totally alleviates that because we're not using pre-treatment at all. Also, it's just like I mentioned with pre-treatment saving money, it saves you money in other areas as well. Okay, so for example, the shirt that Steve's got right here, okay, we did a side-by-side comparison, DTG to DTF with this exact image onto a shirt. Now, you might be surprised that even by adding the film and the powder to the costing, the DTF version comes out at a lower cost than what the DTG does. So the DTG cost us $2.61 in this format, and for the DTF it costs us $2.39. Doesn't sound like much, but that's actually a 9% reduction in cost. So think about that across 100 shirts. It's actually a pretty big saving. Okay, so it saves you with money as well. Now, it also works for those of you doing DTG at the moment. You know what fibration is. Okay, so fibration is where we see some white dots coming through in solid colors. All right, so the white dots coming through are from the DTG process being a wetting going onto the wet shirt. All right, with this DTF process being wetting onto the film and then a powder applied to the back of it, which gives it body. Okay, and then it's heat pressed onto the shirt. We don't have those fibers coming through as a wet, as it's not wetting going down onto the shirt, so it stops all that vibration. So you may see some better results with solid colors when you're using DTF as opposed to DTG, which is a big benefit as well. It also works really well with volume printing. Okay, now as you can see by the example that Steve's holding up, in the past with DTG, we would have to load each individual garment or each individual piece of clothing onto the machine itself, send it in, let it do the print, come out, take it off. With DTF, we can actually gang up those images onto one sheet of film and then print them all at once. So instead of doing, in this case, it's only 6, but it could be up to 30 if they're only small chest logos, for example. We can print them down all at once, saving a lot of time. So we don't have to individually load each piece. We can print them all on the one sheet, then take the sheet off, cut them up and heat apply them to the products. You know, saving us a lot of time there in loading and unloading as well. So as I said, time's money. Now also ultra fine detail. Now Steve's going to give us a close up now of a comparison in ultra fine detail between DTF and DTG. So as you'll see here, on the left hand side is the DTF product. On the right is the DTG. So when you go up nice and close, it's not much of a difference, but there is an actual difference. Well, you'll see because the DTF sits more present on the shirt itself, that finer detail is slightly better. All right, so when you go into finer detail as well, the wet ink falls a little bit down into the weave of the shirt. The DTF being solid, like I mentioned, stays on top. So that fine detail, we actually get a better result as well. As you can see there. Now, Steve, that's the comparison between DTG and DTF. What about HTV? A lot of people out there use HTV. What's the difference between the two? So
HTV is similar to DTF, whereby we transfer the decal to the garment or product, whatever we're making. However, a huge advantage of DTF over HTV is that there's no weeding required. I don't know about you, but I don't like weeding.
No, I'm not a fan either. I know some people out there like it, but it's not me.
Some of our viewers today may like weeding, but most people generally don't like weeding. No. DTF, no weeding required. So that's massive time saving. And another huge benefit of DTF over HTV is the cost. Yep. So if we take the cost of HTV, so the vinyl itself, the ink and the application tape required to apply it, and work out the square meter, it's going to cost about $63 per square meter.
Yep.
Work out the same square meter, it's 1 square meter with DTF. So that's the DTF film, the DTG inks required, and also the DTF powder. You're looking at about $21 per square meter.
Wow.
Now that's like about 30% of the cost.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
Incredible saving there. And also the feel of hand of DTF is softer than HTV. Now, if I had to class the feel of DTF between all the different technologies, I'd say it sits between HTV and DTG in regards to softness. What about you?
Yep, that's about right, Steve.
Yeah.
That's it, right. It is about halfway of the hand between the two.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling product when it's on the garment.
Now, there's one other technology, the laser transfer solutions, which is a self-weeding process. What's a comparison to that, Ian?
Yep, really good question, Steve. Now, as Steve mentioned, laser would be the other, no need to weed option that you can use to produce images onto certain products. Now, with laser, one thing is the longevity on the garment. Mm-hmm. DTF will outweigh that. Yeah, totally. It'll stay on your product a lot longer than what the laser product can stay on your product. It's also in costing. Now, an A3 sheet in the laser transfer system is going to cost you $7 for one A3 sheet. All right. The DTF, the same size A3 sheet, is going to cost you $1.
Wow.
$1. So that's a seventh of the cost. That's exactly right.
Seventh of the cost.
So massive cost savings as well, going from laser across to the DTF process. Also. Now, they're the comparisons between the different print options. I hope they gave you a bit of clarity too around what the different other options that you might be currently using can do and what DTF would be able to achieve for you. So I suppose best we move into what equipment's required.
Yeah. So Steve? We've spoke about DTG printers. Give us a little bit more detail about what type of DTG printer is required.
Exactly right. So as I mentioned from the start, we do require, or the GJS system works with the DTG printer. Okay, and I mentioned earlier too about making sure that you've got yourself a good DTG printer. Okay, now the ones that we offer the Brother and the Epson machines. They are designed and built from the ground up to be direct-to-garment printers. Okay, they're made to have this style of ink going through them. The other machines that you might see out there, like I mentioned, the sideways engineered paper and photo printers, they're not made to have thick ink like Garmin is going through them. They're made to have the really thin ink going through them. So those people who have maybe invested in one of those would already know that over a short period of time, and like we've seen with the machine that we've had and from a lot of our customers, they do fail quickly. Okay, so we base ourselves with the DTG machines, the Brother and the Epson, because they're made to handle this type of ink. So we offer the Epson F2160 and the Brother GTX 423 machines. They're a great production machine and a great starting point for your DTG, DTF experience. Then we can move up into more high production equipment as well, Steve, with the Epson F3000 and also the GTX 424 Pro Bulk machines as well. So they're the 4 machines that we offer that can actually achieve the DTF process. Now we also offer a smaller machine as well, which is the roller machine, which only has CMYK ink in it. We can't use that style of DTF with DTG with DTF because it has no white ink in it, Steve. The white ink is imperative to this process. So the other 4 that I just mentioned are the ones that you should be considering if you're looking to get into DTF and DTG. So that's the printer side of things. All right. So other than the printer, which is the main piece of equipment to invest in for this process, you also do need some subsidiary equipment as well. All right. So obviously the first one that we'll talk about is a heat press. Okay. Now, as we have behind us and next to Steve there, all right, a heat press is imperative to this this process because we need to heat apply. It's a transfer that we heat apply to the product. All right, so as you can see here, we can use it to apply the transfer to the product, but we can also use it to cure the ink and the powder once it's been put down onto the film, okay, which is the next step in the process after we printed it. We've got to cure that ink and we've got to also set the powder to it as well. So for that process, a swing away heat press like you see here is the best one to go with. If it was a clamshell, it might not come down level because this is already parallel to each other. Okay, it's an equidistant the whole way across the platen. It will set your ink and powder to your product perfectly. Okay, so if you're using it for that manner, for curing your powder and your ink, consider a swing away press. It's going to be the best one for you. Outside of that, if you've got a clamshell, you can make it work. You just have to make sure that it's dead parallel. All right. So the next thing after the heat press is a DTF oven, which GJS has researched. We've got machines in and tested them. And Steve's going to show us the unit that we have on offer right now, right there. So this is our GJS DTF oven. It's a purpose-built piece of equipment used to cure the ink and the powder. So instead of putting it underneath your heat press and actually taking up your heat press when you could be using that to apply the product, we can use one of these little beauties. All right, so what it is a drawer style system where we actually extend the drawer. We then place our printed film and powder onto the product, onto the machine, and then we push it back in again, and we can press the start button, which will start the countdown timer, as you can see there. All right, now after the allotted time, we can pull that out, and it will be perfectly cured and perfectly set. All right, now the best thing about this type is that it's actually fully enclosed. So as opposed to the previously talked about heat press, you can see that it's all open around the sides. So it takes longer to actually cure it in a heat press. We're looking anywhere between 4 and 4.5 minutes in that unit, Steve.
Yeah.
Whereas in the oven, we can actually get away with around 3 to 3.5 minutes. So it's a quicker time once we invest in or get ourselves a DTF oven. So again, you'll be able to see those on our website. Have a look at them. They're a great little piece of kit if you're considering going into DTF.
It's a great little add-on.
Definitely. Now, last but definitely not least,
what else can we use?
As we go in, we're going to cross across to Tom Cam. Tom's in our GJS showroom at the moment, and he's going to show us a high volume way to actually set the ink and the powder to DTF powder to the film. All right, and that's a tunnel dryer. As you can see there, that's in our GJS showroom. You might see in the background the Epson F2160 as well. All right, so this unit, like I said, the other 2 ways we'll use a single sheet at a time. So we can put 1 sheet in the oven or 1 sheet in the heat press. Okay, but with this one, if we're doing mass production, we can print a sheet, and with that conveyor belt, it will actually run through the machine, and then we can lay the next one up behind it. Automatically run through. We can set up a catcher on the other end of that, and the printed sheets will fall out onto that catcher. So once we've finished our print run, we can then go and collect all the sheets and start applying them. Or you can have, if you're blessed to have another staff member, you can have them starting to cut it up and apply it for you too as well, Steve. So that's the GJS tunnel dryer. That's for DTF. So again, if you're looking at high production work, all right, that's the type of thing that you should be considering on looking at. So if you're interested, get in touch with your local GJS sales rep, and they'll be able to talk you through the product.
Now,
that's all the equipment that we need, all the bigger pieces of equipment, Steve. All right, but obviously there's now some other stuff that we've been talking about, like film and powder. All right, and some other pieces of equipment that we need. What are they?
Obviously, we're going to need to use the GJS DTF powder and the GJS DTF film, purchasable in 1.5 kilo pouches, and the film is in A3 or 400 by 500 sheets, packs of 100. We're also going to need a few accessories. So we recommend the use of goggles and masks and gloves. Now, the powder is all non-toxic, but due to the nature of the fine particles, it's recommended to wear a mask and goggles just to protect yourself. Now, we're all pretty used to wearing masks these days, so basically those masks will be perfect for this as well.
Yep. I'm sure everyone's got one lying around in their car, one on their desk, one one at home. Exactly right. Make sure you use them.
And also, because of the fine nature of the particles, make sure you set up your work area so you're not applying the powder close to the printer. So the particles get inside the printer, it could cause some problems. So just make sure you set up your work area appropriately.
Exactly.
Now, there are a few other things that you need, such as, say, masking tape to affix the film to the platen on your DTG printer, baking paper or copy paper, and maybe an anti-static gun, which we'll explain about that shortly. Yeah.
Beautiful, Steve. Beautiful.
So I think that's everything you need to know about DTF so far. What should we do next, Ian?
Why don't we actually produce some products for the customers,
fantastic idea.
So they can see how it goes. What should we start off with, Steve?
I think we should produce a yellow cotton t-shirt.
Okay, a yellow cotton t-shirt. That's really specific, but that's something we can definitely do. As you can imagine, we prepared a little bit earlier.
So the first thing we're going to do for the DTF process is take the DTF film and we're going to put that onto the platen of the DTG printer. Now, when the packaging comes marked with which side is the printable side, you print onto the rough side. So one side is smooth, one side's rough. What's the best way to work it out if you forget, Ian?
If you feel it, you can actually feel that one side is a lot smoother than the other. One's slightly rough and matte, and the other's a lot more smooth. So it's always face up in the packet as well. So that's a good way of telling. But if you have accidentally mixed them up, then you can actually feel the difference between the two of them.
So we just use a little bit of masking tape here to hold it in position, but there are other ways to do this. Do you want to just explain what that is, Ian?
Yeah, definitely, Steve. So masking tape's fine. We can use that. It's just to hold it in position so it doesn't move while it's printing. Okay, you can also use a method of putting on some, for example, Metamark MD3 sticker vinyl onto the platen of your printer. All right, and then we use a product that's a spray adhesive. All right, so we take the platen off the machine, spray this product, which is a glue basically, onto the MD3, so we're not affecting our standard platen below. All right, and then we can get around about 20 or 30 sheets out of it with one application of the spray. All right, so, and also after those 20 to 30 sheets, once it starts to lose its tack a little bit, we can remove the platen and apply more. And you can apply that around about 10 times, for example, to the one piece of Metamark before you need to change that and put some new stuff on. So it's a really cost-effective way of doing it. It's not expensive at all, and it just saves you having to apply tape to each sheet as you put it down. It makes it a lot quicker process as well. So they're the two different ways that we've found to use it. If anyone out there is doing it differently, don't hesitate to let us know. Put through to us the way that you're affixing the film to your platen on your DTG. All right, so once we've got that down,
before we send the print in, just show us what we would do to remove any static. So if if there's a low humidity in the environment, that can create static. If there's static in the media, that can affect the way the ink goes down or the way that the powder sticks to unprinted areas. So this is an anti-static brush. Literally just brush it like that 2 seconds before you print it. Or this is an anti-static gun you can buy from a record store. Just shoot the film just like that and removes the static.
Which is important in the process too. There is static in the film, it can cause you issues with your print.
So that's usually when it's a low humidity that happens. So we prepared the print file earlier, it's already on the machine. Now we're going to press the magic green button and it's going to start printing. So just going to do the auto clean before we start print. Anyone with brother DTG will know this. When a machine's been stood idle for a few moments, does a clean before it starts printing to make sure it's perfect.
Exactly, Steve. That's just to make sure that the first print it does is perfect on your either your film or onto your t-shirt, so you're not wasting that product. Very smart piece of equipment. Won't take long. If we just printed on this 1 minute ago, we wouldn't do this. But because we've been talking to you for a little while and telling you about DTF, it's been sitting idle. So we'll do this little clean just to, like Steve said, make sure it's perfect.
So both the Brother and the Epson comes with its own software specifically for DTF printing. The Brother software has an additional piece of software specifically for DTF, whereas Epson is an upgrade to the Garment Creator software. However, from our experience, to get the very best results, we recommend the use of CADlink Digital Factory RIP software. Now, this has a lot of benefits. Some of the key features are streamlined workflow. So you can set up hot folders and have different range of print settings assigned to the different hot folders just to make it really quick and easy. And one of the key benefits for DTF is allows you to print vector files. So you can drop vector files directly into the RIP software, and that's going to give you the very best print quality. So because we're printing directly onto a hard surface compared to DTG onto a fabric, we want the print to be the very best quality it can be. And that's what we can do with the RIP software.
Exactly, Steve. That's available for both the Brother and the Epson, isn't it?
Yeah. Now what you're going to see here is that it's printing down the colouring first, and then it's going to print the white ink afterwards. Now the RIP software controls this whole process. And with the GTX specifically, it prints 2 layers of CMYK. So it prints the first layer with half the white colour ink, and then it'll go back through and print the same layer of colour ink again. That's so we don't put all the ink down in one go and gives us an even more vibrant result. So it's done the first layer of colour ink. It's going back into the printer now, and it's going to start the second layer of colour ink. Now, it's not possible to do it all in one pass like it is with DTG printing. Because of the way of the print heads, it's designed for the white ink to go down first. However, with DTF, we don't want that to happen because it's transfer printing. We want the white to be at the back.
It's still a fast print cycle on the GTX, very fast printer. So, and we do need, like Steve said, a fair bit of coloured ink to go down to get that vibrancy. So by laying it down in these two layers like it's doing and putting the white on top, it's giving it time to dry as well, which gives us a perfect print. Look at that colour.
Really vibrant.
So once this goes down, we have our powder unit set up ready to go. All right, so with the wet ink, once it goes down onto the film, we'll then take it across to our powdering unit and we'll apply the powder. You'll be able to see exactly how that's done and how easy that process is as soon as it's finished printing as well. So now it's going to start to put down the white layer on top as well.
So if you compare DTF to DTG printing, the white ink that's going down here is considerably less than DTG. It's about 60% less.
So another cost saving as well, Steve.
Sure is.
Well, the lower amount of white ink that we're actually using. On a DTG printed garment, we need to lay down a lot of white ink to mask out that background colour. Okay, but because we're also using powder in this process, we only need to put down, like Steve said, a lot lower percentage of white ink. All right, and the powder actually helps to make up that extra density behind the print, so it masks out the background colour of the garment itself.
So this print's nearly finished. Now, one of the tips we can give you here is to make sure as soon as it's pretty much finished printing, you're there ready to take the film off the platen and apply the powder. So if the ink has had time to dry, an insufficient amount of powder will stick to the ink. So the wetter it is, the more ink is going to stick to the powder, and that's going to give us a better print result. So you can see there, that ink is nice and wet. We want to pick that up. Being careful not to touch the ink because it is wet, you will smudge it. So Ian's going to carefully carry this over to our powdering station, which is away from our printer.
Okay, now, as you'll see, we have the powder in that container. All right, so all we need to do is pick up the powder onto our film, making sure it goes across the whole width of the print itself. All right, and once it is, we then just let it roll across it, and that will stick only to that wet print area. Okay, so only to where the ink is. Now, there will be excess powder that does slightly stick to excess areas, and we do need to get that off. Okay, so first of all, we give it a little shake, and then once I've given it a shake, I'll give it a good flick as well. So that flick will help remove any excess powder from the back of the sheet and take it off it. So just like so. So now that we've removed all that excess powder, it's ready to go into our fixation unit to actually cure it. So now I could put it underneath the heat press, or we could put it into our DTF oven, which we're going to, or your tunnel dryer. So as mentioned, we just pull the drawer out. With that drawer out, we're going to put the print in, close the drawer, and start the timer. So that'll give us a countdown. That'll let us know when it's actually finished and ready to go. But I suppose it's a good time now to actually talk about another tip, which is about your powder. All right, so we need to keep our powder nice and dry. Okay, if it does get moisture into it, it will go clumpy and it won't work correctly. All right, so that's why we invest in a container like this, which has a snap lock lid on it, which is going to keep that powder nice and dry. Now, best to keep it in a dry, cool location as well. And you'll notice also on our bags of powder that they have a snap lock finish to them as well. So we don't necessarily need to tip this back out into our snap lock bag. After we've used this powder, it can stay in this container because it has that sealed lid on it as well. All right, so make sure that you keep your powder nice and dry, otherwise it will ruin over time if it gets moisture in it. So be really particular about that. You're going to get the best results. So
I've got a question for you, Ian.
Ask away.
So how do we know we've cured the powder and the inks properly?
That's a really good question, Steve. Now, it is all done by testing at the start. When you first get your equipment and you start doing DTF, you're going to have to do a couple of tests on it to make sure that your heat press or your oven is set correctly to make sure that we get the best finish. All right, now that finish, when it's cured the ink and also set the powder to it, is a feel like sandpaper. Okay, so if we feel the actual print after it's cured, if it feels like sandpaper but there's no actual powder particles coming off, then we've cured it enough. All right, even if it goes a little bit smooth, so it's slightly less than sandpaper, that's still an all right finish as well. The way that we wouldn't want to see it is if it felt like orange peel, if it was slightly oily, for example, all right, or if it was very smooth like orange peel. If it goes that far, we've actually overcooked it.
So what would we do in that situation?
You could also still see some bubbles that might form in it as well, Steve,
Yeah.
underneath. All right, it'll start to actually bubble off the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you do get to that stage where it is overcooking, a couple of things that the first thing you should consider is actually turning down the temperature on whichever product that you're using to cure the ink. Okay, so a slightly lower temperature. We usually don't mess with the time too much. That time needs to be that time so it actually cures the ink as well. We're not just setting the powder to it, Steve, we're actually curing the ink as well. All right, so that 3.5 minutes in the oven or 4.5 minutes under the heat press needs to be a specific time. So if it does go too far, then we're going to reduce the temperature that we're applying to it. If it doesn't go far enough, if you can still rub it and there's still like sand coming off or the powder's coming off, then we need to increase our temperature slightly until we get it perfect. Like I mentioned, Steve, that's done through testing.
Yeah, it's a really good tip there, Ian.
Making
sure you've got that powder. That's probably one of the key things, is making sure you've melted the powder sufficiently and not too much, and also cure the inks.
That's exactly right.
If the inks aren't cured, then it could affect the longevity of the print. It could wash away the colour ink, could wash away from a transfer. So talking about washability, what is the washability of the DTF?
It's really good, actually. Now, we've even got a sample shirt here that we've washed 45 times, I believe now, and counting. All right, and we just can't hurt it. We've actually tried to wreck this shirt. So we put it through things like tumble dryers. We've hot washed it at 60 degrees, for example, which are things that you should never do to a printed garment. Okay, but we've done it with this one and it's holding up really well. So that's going to happen moving forward for you guys as well. Now, as you can hear, our little unit's letting us know that the time is up and that our ink will be cured and our powder will be set to the ink as well. So there's a finished product. All right. There's our powder side. If you can see that, you can still see it's slightly powdery and feels sort of like sandpaper. I wish it was field vision so you could actually feel this yourself. Unfortunately, it's not.
Field vision.
Okay, but so that's our print that we can now apply to whatever we like. Right, so what should we apply this one to, you think, Steve?
Probably yellow cotton
We
shirt.
spoke about a yellow cotton shirt, and it just so happens that we've got one right here.
Convenient, isn't
It
it?
is very convenient, Steve. So let me just prepare that over here.
So do you need to pre-press the garments first, Ian?
It is best to pre-press the garments, yes, definitely. All right, so we're going to use that baking paper a little bit later on as well. But we'll put the shirt onto the heat press, show you how easy the whole process is. All right, you notice I'm just laying this one on top. All right, isolating the area that I want to actually print to. Now we only need to pre-press this for a short time. All we're doing really is flattening out the surface. All right, and also if there's any moisture that's in the shirt, for example, it might remove that moisture, which may become a adherence blocker as well. So we're making sure that we're going to put it down nicely onto the product. All right, so then we're going to lay it on to the shirt in the area that we want to apply it to. Okay, just like so. All right, now when we have that lined up in the area that we want it on, we're going to heat press this one being a cotton garment at 160 degrees for 15 seconds, Steve.
It's a really quick press.
It is a really quick press, exactly right. So we use a nice medium to heavy pressure as well to make sure that it bonds down into the shirt nicely. All right, on this beautiful GJS DTF 20S, awesome heat press. If you're looking for something robust and it's going to last you for years, this is the girl. All right, once that's done, we lift that up. Now we do need to let this cool slightly. All right, so it is a warm to cool pearl. So I'm just going to bring it over and sit it down in a different area to let that cool off slightly. Now, letting this cool, we could be now going back over to our heat press and loading up the next shirt, putting our next print on and actually heat pressing it. All right, we can leave this sit to actually cool totally and then go back after we've heat press them all onto the garments and peel them off at that stage if you like. Or while that's actually pressing for the 15 seconds, come back over to this one after it's cooled down enough, which this one has now. All right, and we can then remove it just like so. And as you can see, it's stuck beautifully to the garment. Look at that colour, Steve.
Fabulous print, Ian.
Come on, beautiful, isn't it, mate?
Is that one of your designs?
I wish it was, mate. I'm not a designer. I'm not a graphic artist at all. But hey, as you can see, look at the colour in that.
Feels so good.
And the feel is actually fantastic as well. You're dead set right, Steve. So we can leave this like this if we wanted to right now. Okay, this is quite happily can go into a bag and go to your customer. Okay, you might notice that it has got a slight sheen to it. All right, we can do one extra step in the process now to matte off the surface a little so it looks more like the matte shirt behind it. And it will also give it a slightly better feel on the shirt too. All right, so that's just by using either a piece of matting paper or a piece of baking paper. And we're going to press that for a short time. We're going to do that to this one, Steve, just to show you what the process is. All right, so we're going to bring this over, put it back onto the heat press. All right, we're going to press this a second time with our sheet of baking paper over it, just like so.
That's just standard baking paper?
Standard baking paper, Steve. All right, so now we're going to press this only for about 3 seconds this time. All right, and that's enough to put that matte surface on there. It does help slightly embed the print a little bit more into the garment, and that would be your final result. Look at that. You can actually wear that out tonight, Steve.
I might do, actually.
It's a damn good looking shirt.
Is it my size?
I couldn't wear it. It's too light coloured and I get a bit too dirty, mate. So, but look at that. What a print. What a print. So that's just a standard cotton t-shirt. Okay, so like I said, you can still do this with DTG, but like you mentioned, you'd have to play around with your pre-treatment levels to be able to produce it on a shirt that's yellow like this. All right, so doing it DTF, it's worked superbly. Standard cotton t-shirt.
It's really quick and easy.
Now, what are we going to do next, Steve?
Well, why don't we do something polyester, considering that's what one of the main advantages of DTF.
Exactly right, Steve. So what type of polyester garment would you like to do?
I think I'd like to do a high-vis polo workwear.
Like that high-vis one behind us here?
So, yeah, pretty much that one.
Perfect, beautiful.
There you go.
Long sleeve, so obviously for your workwear. All right, great for all those tradies out there, and it's a massive market too. So for those who have a DTG and you've only been doing cotton garments previously. Jump across into that workwear market. I guarantee you won't regret it. All right, so with this one, we're going to actually feed this on to the heat press. You might have noticed the last one was laid on top because it is a cotton garment, all right, and it was just a normal t-shirt. But with this one, because it has the buttons on the front and the pocket, if I lay this one on top, we're going to get those marks coming through to the back when we heat press them. All right, so I'm going to feed this on so all those parts are underneath the heat press, which we can do easily with the DK20S. All right, so we just load that on and we're going to isolate the area, taking all the seams off the surface that we're going to press the image to. All right, making sure it's nice and flat on there as well and lined up. And once it is, all right, again, I'm just going to give it a slight press. That's just best practice. Again, it's not necessary, but it's best practice. All right, once we've given it a little pre-press, we're then going to find the image that we're going to put on it. And consequently, it's exactly the same as the one that we have up there. All right, so we're going to put this down onto our garment, aligned in the correct location that we want it to be applied to. And you can even, in this case, use that just for extra safety. Put a bit of baking paper over the top of that as well to press it if you like. All right, now, this being polyester, we're going to press this at a different time, at a different temperature, sorry. Same time of 15 seconds, all right, but we're going to press it for at 130 degrees, not 160 degrees. We can also lengthen it out to 20 seconds as well. If we're finding, because of the polyester, the lower temperature isn't quite right, we can lengthen that out to 20 seconds as well. But we'll do it for 15 seconds here. All right, again, with that medium to high pressure, that lower temperature helps the polyester garment not mark as badly. For those who have done poly before with HTV, for example, you'd know that the heat and the pressure can actually mark the polyester. So doing it at that lower temperature of 130 degrees, as opposed to 160 that we've done the cotton with, reduces that press mark on there. So again, once we've done that, we'll take it off the heat press and we'll bring it across and we'll let that cool as well. All right, again, we can be loading up the next shirt. Like I mentioned before, we can do all these and then come back to them a little bit later on as well.
Can you actually let that go completely cold?
Yeah, of course you can, Steve. You can go completely cold, mate. You can do 40, 50 shirts all at once. Just leave the actual transfer paper on there and then come back at the end and remove it all. So that's cooled enough now. So we'll peel that off. And again, what an outstanding finish.
The HT luxury building and renovation are going to be extremely happy with that.
My word, they are. My word, they are. They're looking forward to getting their workwear as well. And again, look at the quality in that print. And you saw by the previous one how easy it is to do as well with the DTG printer. So again, we're going to do the second press on this as well. Again, best practice. So we're going to put this back across onto the heat press. And we're going to use our baking paper just to give this a finishing press. Nice and easy. Again, only for about 3 seconds or so. And what you would have noticed from the images over there before as well is that we haven't got those press marks on it, which can be notorious with polyester clothing. And there's your final product. Again, what a great result. And I tell you, you have to do it yourself to get the feel. You hardly even know it's on the shirt. After you do that second press, it really pushes it more into the weave and makes it a nicer feel. What do you think, Steve?
Like you said, it's a shame it's not feel-o-vision.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, mate, exactly. But there's our results onto a polyester high-vis piece of workwear. Great market to get into. So much stuff out there. So what a result. They can go into a bag and out to your customer straight away. So that's the high-vis polyester polo. What's probably your favourite product, Steve?
Probably a hoodie.
Hoodie that we mentioned before.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So why don't we do a hoodie?
Not just any hoodie. A high-vis hoodie, Ian.
High-vis polyester hoodie. Have a crack at that again.
Yeah.
In that workwear market, a polyester product that you can't generally do with DTG printing. And like I mentioned as well, the DTG, it even takes a longer, and you've got to be more specific with the DTG printing onto a hoodie anyway. So we'll show you how easy it is to go onto a polyester high-vis hoodie with DTF. So again, we're going to load this onto the DK20S. We're going to do it so we isolate that back area as well. All right, so we'll feed it onto the heat press. Make sure we've got it aligned nice and straight. And then we're going to, as we showed previously, we're going to put Superman on here for super plumbing. So again, we just need to line up where we're going to apply it. And once we've done that, I'm again going to use.
What does the baking paper do at this point, Ian?
It just helps protect, Steve, really. And sometimes, depending on the vacuum, the film may stick to your heat press as well. All right, and it depends on if you've got anything else on your heat press too that may stick to the film. And if it does, it could ruin it when it comes off. All right, so using this on, you just put the protection in between it. Also helps protect your garment as well from anything that might be on your heat press too. So again, this is still set to that 130 degrees, and we've got it set to 15 seconds.
So this garment is a polyester garment. Can you press onto sublimated polyester garments? Okay,
yes, you can. Okay, because it has that white powder underneath there, and we can do it at the lower temperature, then yes, you can definitely press onto sublimated garments as well, like jerseys and things like that too. No problems at all. We can even get it down to 120 degrees as well if you really want to for a sublimated garment.
And just increase the time.
And increase the time. That's exactly right. Press it for a little bit longer time at that lower temperature. All right, and it won't resublimate. So we'll take this off again, over and let it cool. All right, won't take too long to cool, especially on this bigger, thicker garment as well. All right, so that's cooled down enough now that we can actually remove it. And again, if I had my fingers right,
it just peels off so easy.
Look at that, exactly right, mate. And what a result! Again, it never fails to amaze me when you see the results for this thing. When you remove it,
this feels so good.
It does as well.
I
feels great.
Feel.
Yeah, you like the feel like that?
Almost a rubber silicone type feel.
It is a silicone type feel. That's exactly right, mate. When we can actually leave this one like this, on this thicker garment, it does suit it as well. All right, so we won't bother pressing this one a second time with the baking paper, because that's fine, just like it is. It's just with those thinner garments, when it is a more matte feel, it does give it a better feel using the baking paper. But on this thicker hoodie, it doesn't really matter. But there's the result. Looks great. Only if you worked for Huxley HD Luxury and for the Super Plumbing as well, you'd have both your shirts ready to rock and roll.
Look at that. So it just opens up the market, so many things, so quick and easy.
Exactly
the same
right.
process for all these different types of garments.
All the different ones, that's right.
So there's no mixing and changing, different pre-treatment ratios, anything like that.
Exactly right, mate. Makes it so simple. So that's a hoodie done. It's also just as easy to do the cotton hoodies. All right, so we just do them, like I mentioned, at the higher time. All right, at the higher temperature, sorry, at 160 degrees as opposed to the 130 degrees that we've been doing with these polyester garments. So we've done some clothing, we've done a hoodie, we've done a polo. All right.
Yeah.
Let's do something totally different.
Let's do something that's like really hard to
generally decorate.
Yeah. Something that'd be really difficult. It's possible, but really difficult with DTG.
What would you like to do, Steve?
Maybe a pair of shoes.
A pair of shoes. Okay. Done.
Your shoes, I think.
Yeah, they are. It's the other shoe. I've only done one so far, so we've got to do the other one. All right.
There you go.
And here
That's
it is.
your size.
Yeah, it is perfectly my size. All right. So as you can see, the first thing we need to do obviously is remove our laces. All right. So they're all out of the way. All right. And then we just need to isolate the area that we're going to press onto on the heat press, so we can make sure that we get the pressure that's required to apply the DTF image or transfer to it. All right, and I just so happen to have that DTF image right here.
It's convenient.
That we're going to put onto this shoe. All right, now the main thing with this one is, even when I'm applying it, I'm only using the corner of the heat press to do it, but we still have some other parts up on the heat press itself. So what I need to do is apply a little bit more pressure to it, just so I can make sure that we push these down into the sponge and we get the proper pressure on the actual area that we're pressing onto. All right, so I'm just going to bring this around and just increase the pressure slightly, so we can make sure that we get that nice heavy pressure on for this specific print. All right, then again, we just need to put the decal in the area that we want to apply it and make sure that it is still on the heat press area. Once we have that, we're going to bring it back around. All right, and we're going to press it. All right, so again, we're going to press this one because it is a cotton canvas. We're going to do this at 160 degrees for 15 seconds to get the best results. All right, so like I said, we've got it right on the corner, so we up that pressure to make sure that we had the correct amount of pressure on it. And once we've done that, I'm just going to allow that to cool. I'm just going to use the age-old method of blow cooling.
It's a good technique you've got there, Ian.
I've done it once or twice to cool that down enough so we can actually peel it off. All right, so then once that's cooled enough, as you can see, we'll peel that off. And I'm going to, with this one, definitely do it a second press. If I can get the shoe back on there.
Help you?
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. Just get it back on that area again. And we're going to press that corner again. Okay, just for a couple of seconds, like we did last time. And there's our finished product. And now I've got the full set. The only thing I need to do now is put our good old DTF on the tongue of that one, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Aren't they two right shoes?
They are two right shoes, actually, mate. But I have two right feet, so that's fine. But as you can see, the results that we get from this new process is just crazy good. It's awesome. Again, you're only restricted by your thoughts to what you can actually produce with this system. It's a fantastic system. If you want, like I said, the non-woven bags, they're a massive market as well. So those non-woven bags, they work really well with the system. So look at things like this. We've even got customers at the moment who are doing it with leather, for example. So have a go on leather. There's a multitude of different things that you can put it onto. Like we've shown the shoes. Steve showed you the beanies earlier as well. Even for jeans, for denim, for example. A lot of people these days putting images onto jeans. Don't hesitate to use things like that as well. All right, so yeah, that's the demos.
So please feel free to send through the questions. Take advantage while we're here now. Any questions you've got to ask, let us know. We will answer them. So when we've been doing the final press on the heat press, we've been using baking paper.
Yep.
What else can we use? And what happens if we see some powder pressed to the garment?
That's a very good
question.
Which is
obvious Steve. On a darker product like a black.
It is. If we are going onto a black shirt, you can sometimes see some excess powder around the external of the image itself where it's stuck to the film. All right, and when we apply that to a dark shirt, you may see that show up on that image. Now, it's actually quite easy to remove. All right, and it's just by using your standard copy paper. So you pull that out of your printer. All right, and we put this over the printed image that you've just done. And then heat press it for again about 3 to 5 seconds. Yeah. Exactly right, Steve. And then we remove this. That excess powder or excess glue on the product would more readily stick to the paper than what it does to the garment. All right, so we'll remove it off and it'll come away leaving behind a perfect product for you. So that's really good question, Steve, because that does actually happen.
So we've got a question here regarding the software for Epson Garment Creator. So there is a patch available to allow you to put down the color first and then the white. And there is actually a way to use it on the F2000. So give us a call, send us an email, whatever's easiest, and we'll be able to take control of your computer and help you set that up. I'll give you instructions on how to do that.
Great question. Great question.
Got a question here for you, Ian.
Yeah, Jenny. Yep.
Thanks, Jenny. Do we have a starter package available for DTF?
Yeah, we definitely do. Now, you can see that at present will be on our website. If you jump on there and go into the kit section where we have all of our starter kits, all right, you'll see the DTF starter kit in that section there for you. But also to get a more personalised kit for you as well, give your local sales rep a call, and they'd be able to help you develop a package for yourself as well. There might be extra equipment or less equipment in it that those kits are actually having with them on the website. Yeah.
What's the next question there, Ian?
Okay, one for Steve, is it?
It is.
It's from Alison saying, just wanting to know what setting you would use for Epson Garment Creator with the Epson SCF 2000.
Good question. Good question. Well, with the F2000 being the previous model, we haven't done extensive testing because we don't have a demo model, but we know that you're definitely going to need to set the white density to -50 and color density. I'd experiment with 0 and +10. And then if you wanted to boost the saturation of the colors, the way we would recommend to do that is to reduce the brightness. And that's going to boost the saturation of the colors as well. So they're definitely the settings that we'd recommend to test first. But like I said before, the digital factory software from CADlink is the best software to use. And there is a free trial that you can download. We will actually include that in the follow-up email after this event. It gives you a 15-day trial. Now, when you come to install it, if you need any help on that, please give our support team a call. We can take control of your computer, even set it up for you, give you a demo, get it ready to go, and you're going to find it works absolutely perfectly. It gives you the very best colors and the best print quality.
So true, Steve. And
Yeah.
I know Steve's been doing a lot of work on the RIB softwares for the Epson and the Brother printers. But like he said, we do get the best results out of that CADlink software. So get that free trial. It's free. Have a go at it. See if it makes a difference for you.
I think the next question is for you, Ian. Will a pneumatic heat press work as well as a swing away?
Yeah, definitely will. My word, definitely. The best thing about a pneumatic heat press too is it's a lot easier to use. It's just a button push machine. So yeah, it'll work just as well as the swing away version does. The only thing is, I'm guessing the pneumatic, they're usually straight up and down presses, so they're parallel to each other, or a swing away press. All right, so that's one of the highly critical parts of it. When we're curing the ink with it, it'll work fine. But applying, yeah, definitely, my word, they're a great machine.
Mm-hmm. And can we apply to acrylic?
Now, again, like I mentioned, best to try. There's a couple of different types of acrylic out there, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Some release, when they heat up, release some different substances that may stop it actually sticking to acrylic. Best thing you do is you get a small piece of that acrylic, do a small print with DTF, and actually give it a test. I'm guessing it may well stick to it, no problems at all. We haven't had any problems sticking. We've done HTV to acrylics, okay, and it works in a very similar manner to the way that HTV sticks. So best just to give it a go, definitely. Well worth trying. Now, another question.
So yeah, so on the F2160, we do recommend a -10 on the color. The previous question was regarding the F2000, but by all means experiment. But if on the CMYK color density, the thing you're going to be looking for is the ink's not bleeding. If you want to do a test, especially for logo designs like we've been doing, it's not going to really be a problem. It's when you've got colors next to each other, high saturations like blacks and yellows, they tend to run into each other. Black and yellow is notorious in any printer for bleeding. So as long as it's not bleeding, and you can increase the color density if you want to increase the vibrancy.
No, that's exactly right. And do mix and match, have a go. Different images will come out differently with different settings too. Mm-hmm. Like we've noticed, we've been playing around heaps with the settings on there. So don't be scared to actually change it up a little bit. A good way to do it is to get one, if you've got the time and when you've got the time, get one of your standard images, Steve, mm-hmm. and put it as a quarter of your platen. All right, print down that one with one set of settings, change the settings slightly to something different, put it down in a different corner, do all four, and then heat press them to the garment and have a look what your differences are. Mm-hmm. Really good way of doing it too. So another question: how can we do beanies and do socks work? Socks will definitely work. Yep. If we can do beanies, we definitely can do socks. Steve did this beanie yesterday, and it was just a matter of actually laying it down flat in the heat press, putting the image on top, and then heat pressing it for the same time and temperature, just like so. And it works really easily. It works really well. So yeah, socks for sure. Yeah. You're definitely able to do socks as well.
The process is the same regardless of the product or garment you're going on to. Yep. You just got to work out the material, if it's polyester based or cotton based, and work out the time and temperature. Now, one thing we have worked out is that when the product and decal is hot, don't stretch it at that point. Make sure it's completely cold before you start stretching it.
Exactly right, which is slightly different to what HTV. I usually give that a stretch when it's hot, just to make sure that it can move on the product. But with this, no, we've tried that, and Steve's dead set right.
Yeah.
Wait until it cools before you give it any stretching.
It's a really good question here, Ian. What about glass or stainless steel? What sticks to glass and stainless steel?
Okay, yeah, stainless steel's basically made for nothing to stick to it. All right, when it comes to heat applied stuff as well. So again, you're best to test it. It may well work. It's not one that we've actually tested ourselves. Might have to give it a go down the track, Steve, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we usually with stainless steel products, it's either we use the dye sublimation process or we use a a sticker vinyl, for example, to go into that type of product. But again, test, have a go, and actually see how you go. It may work really well.
So curing time and temperature in a DTF oven, Ian.
Okay, time and temperature in the ovens. Now, again, you test them. They're all different. They're all slightly different. Even our machines.
It can fluctuate a little bit, can't they?
That's exactly right. It's only a couple of degrees or a couple of seconds either way, but it's best to do the testing first to make sure that you get it right. So in the oven, we've got our set for 220 seconds at 110 degrees, which tends to do the best on our exact demo machine that we have here. But we know other ones that have gone out as well to customers, they've tried it at that and slightly under, so they have upped the temperature slightly, and other ones were slightly over, so they've reduce the temperature slightly.
I think
so. It's a matter of just doing a test, I believe, Steve.
I think what you mentioned earlier, the best thing to do is the feel of the print. If it still feels a little bit like sandpaper, perfect. You've got the right time and temperature. If it's a really smooth finish, then it's an indication it's too hot. So reduce your temperature until it's still got a rough feeling, a bit like sandpaper.
Exactly, Steve. Good advice, mate. Good advice. And again, it just comes down to a little bit of testing when you first start the process.
Yeah. So good question here. So do we have to mirror the image? Yeah, well, because it's a transfer printing, we've got to mirror the image. We always mirror it on transfer printing. So in the software, the RIP software does that for you automatically. And for the Brother software and the Epson Garment Credit, you can set that up so it's automatic as well.
No, it's exactly right. Yeah. So in the CAD link, there's an option, isn't there?
Yeah.
Just to actually tick a box.
Yeah,
so it will automatically reverse it for you.
So default settings for DTF, because
for DTF,
it's designed for transfer.
Exactly right.
It's a really good question. How many washes would DTF garment last?
Okay, well, like I mentioned, we've actually been trying to wreck this shirt. We've done our best and treat it in ways that should never treat garments, and we can't kill it. We seriously can't kill it. So again, do your own wash test at home, definitely. But if you do all the correct washing procedures, or your customers do with these products, which is cold wash, inside out, and line dry, at the moment, this is going to outlast the garment itself. That garment's going to de-stitch and fall apart and look too ragged with that image still on there. All right, so yeah, we've been trying to kill it, we can't. So to give you an exact length of time, it's 45 plus, and I reckon it'd be up into the 65, 80 mark.
And we obviously don't recommend this, but this shirt has actually been through the tumble dryer as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously we don't recommend it. We've been trying to destroy the print by putting it through the tumble dryer, and it's still holding up.
It's still holding up. Well. It's ridiculously long lasting and ridiculously hardy. All right, so yeah, if you have any experiences with it, of falling apart sooner, you can be certain in knowing that it's something that the customer has done to the product itself, not something that you've done. So we can't kill it. We can't kill it at the moment.
Wow, look at this, Ian. Deb's been DTFing on yacht sailing material.
Deb,
what a unique application that is. Amazing.
Well done. No, see what I said. If you can try it on something. And that's something way out there. That's fantastic. They're really cool to hear.
It's awesome. It really is great to see the different ways all of our customers get to use a different print technologies, like print it onto yacht sails.
That's crazy. That's exactly right. One thing that we'd never test here.
Yeah, no.
So thanks for letting us know, Dad. That's awesome. So any other questions, please don't hesitate to send them through.
We've done an absolutely great job here, Ian. We've answered everyone's questions.
Yep.
So just before we wrap up, we'd just like to say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to learn about this revolutionary new print technologies. It's been a really great pleasure to demonstrate this to you today. So have a great afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks a lot. See you next time.